Alcohol has taken a role in our society of being a basic prerequisite to having any kind of fun in a social setting. But is it really that important? Hi everyone, my name is Tony and this is Sinnskraft, a men's personal development channel where we talk about fitness, mindset, lifestyle, and relationships as it pertains to men's health. And in this video, I want to talk a little bit about alcohol. I want to say right away that my goal with this video is not to discourage you from drinking or anything like that, and I also don't want to tell you that alcohol is bad, because we all know about that. We all know about the physical effects of alcohol, the fact that it lowers your testosterone, it stagnates your fitness progress, it decreases the quality of your sleep, it also makes you much more unproductive because of the hangovers, decreases your libido, yada yada yada. My goal in this video is not to say that over and over again to you because you already know about these things, and yet the majority of guys still choose to drink, so there must be a reason for that. My goal with this video is really to explore this limiting belief that alcohol is actually that important for you to have fun in a social setting. And to do that, I want to tell you a story. I want to tell you a story about myself. I told you in the previous videos before that I immigrated to this country when I was pretty young. I was 13, and I was very afraid to open up my mouth and actually speak English because I didn't know any English before, and this resulted in this massive social insecurity that made me really awkward around people, around girls, around everybody. And of course, eventually, as I went to college and I discovered alcohol and I discovered the effects of alcohol on myself, that I could become this very smooth, very cool person, and people actually wanted to interact with me, I went crazy. I started drinking 3-4 times a week, as much as possible, while still being able to keep up with my school, because I really, really liked that feeling that alcohol gave me of social validation. For the first time in my life, I knew that people were accepting me for who I was, without really understanding that alcohol is turning me into somebody that I really am not. It really felt good to me to walk into a bar and people would immediately call out my name, like, "Hey Tony," everybody knew me. Every single bar I would walk into, eventually I could be recognized, and that made me feel good. And even though I sometimes could be spending an entire day laying in bed and being super unproductive, hungover, and even getting alcohol poisoning multiple times in college, that was still not enough to at least make me think about stopping to drink, at least for a while, because the reward that I was getting, the social validation in the moment, was really worth all the risks that I was putting myself under by drinking. And this really made me think that it's probably the majority of people's situations that people really drink because this reward, this ability to escape their unwanted reality, this coping mechanism, is just something that makes alcohol worth it for people. But eventually, as I continued this trend, I also started realizing a couple of things. Of course, I was also diagnosed with diabetes in 2019, which made me stop drinking temporarily. I didn't fully stop drinking because technically diabetes is not something that you have to stop drinking for. Obviously it helps to start to get your health back on track, and I had to do that after I was hospitalized. But eventually I actually started drinking again as I went back to college and had to finish out my degree. But at that point, I was already seeing certain things happening. I saw that I was spending so much money on alcohol, up to $1,000, sometimes even $2,000 every single month on the drinks at bars, which were like $10, $15, $20 each drink. The beers at music festivals that are obviously super overpriced. I was spending a ton of money just on alcohol itself. At that point, I also got into the gym, and I was realizing how much alcohol is stagnating my fitness progress. I was putting on extra weight that I could be avoiding. I could also be making a lot more gains, a lot more progress at the gym without alcohol. I saw it was really holding me back in that sense too. And another thing I was realizing is, even though I knew all of these people at bars and people would notice me immediately and call out my name, I never really knew any of those people. Those connections were completely not genuine. They were completely and solely based on me being drunk. That's it, because people didn't really like me or know me. They liked me drunk, which was a totally different person than I was at the time. And all of that was kind of going forward. I was already starting to think that alcohol might not be as amazing and as great as I thought it was when I just started drinking. And it all climaxed in this one singular event in May 2022 when I was hosting a poker night for some of my friends at my house here in Los Angeles. And obviously, we were drinking, we were getting drunk, and the goal was to go out that night to a dive bar. And I remember myself going out and taking 2 shots of whiskey at this bar that I paid like $30 for. And the next thing I remember was myself in the middle of the street, on my side, with vomit all around me, not a single soul, including any of my buddies, who could potentially help me and get me home or get me to the hospital. And I remember calling the Uber, getting home, and feeling like I was literally about to die. The entire next day, I spent getting over this alcohol poisoning. I was throwing up all day in the toilet, and I told myself that after this event, I am never in my life going to drink ever again. And I stuck to it. At this point, I am 2 years and 3 months sober. And let me tell you, some things have changed in my life since then. Actually, everything did. My life is completely different from what it used to be. And I want to share some of these things with you and kind of just show you what could be on the other side of drinking. The first thing that changed was, of course, my relationships. I realized that the people that I was surrounding myself with were not really my friends. They were just my drinking buddies. It was just a justifiable thing to do. It's much more justifiable to get together with other people and drink as opposed to drink by yourself, because drinking by yourself is considered being an alcoholic. But drinking with other people who also want to be drinking is normal, right? This is just how the society is treating it. It's really the problem of the masses, and the way that society is currently looking at alcohol as this social lubricant. You have to also consider who is putting those thoughts out there. It's the people that really want to profit off of you drinking. And alcohol is actually a massive industry. Think about how many people are profiting off of you being drunk. Even not including the cost of alcohol itself, which is super expensive. Like I said, drinks could go up to $20, $30 at a club or a bar. Beers could be like $13, $15 at a music festival. Even apart from that, but the consequences of you drinking, things like Plan B, things like gambling and casinos, all of those things add up and they become massive industries that people are profiting off of you for. So it makes sense from the capitalistic perspective to, of course, say that alcohol is a social lubricant because it's just a massive, massive industry, right? So that was the first thing I realized, is that my drinking buddies from before, they all disappeared. I completely changed my circle of friends around, and I noticed that now, even though my circle of friends is smaller, those are the people that I truly know to their core, and they know me to my core. They really understand what motivates me. I understand what motivates them. The connections that I'm making with people are so much more genuine and so much more sincere and so much more rewarding in the long term. And what I also realized is that after not drinking for 2 years, at first I was very scared that, oh my God, I'm not going to be social. I won't be able to interact with people in social situations. How am I going to talk to girls? How am I going to go dance? Do I have to completely sacrifice all of that? But I learned through being uncomfortable that alcohol is just a shortcut that people are willing to take to not put themselves in those uncomfortable situations. Let me explain. It's a lot easier to take a shot of whiskey and go dancing in a bar and not caring about how you look, as opposed to go to a dancing class sober, be afraid of it to the point that you're shaking because you think you're going to embarrass yourself so much in front of all these people, and actually learn the skill of dancing while being sober. And that's what I had to do. I went to a bachata class and a tango class, and I learned how to dance sober. I learned how to actually move my body in a way that I wasn't feeling stiff without alcohol. It was just all a skill that I had to learn, and it was very scary. It was very uncomfortable. Same thing with talking to girls. For the majority of guys, it's a lot easier to take a shot of whiskey or take a shot of vodka and approach a girl and talk to her, as opposed to learn that skill of approaching women and talking to them in person, because it's scary. And the majority of guys just choose alcohol and the risks associated with alcohol as a way to not be uncomfortable in that situation. But let me tell you, when you get through that hurdle of being uncomfortable and you learn that skill, you take it on for life. When you drink, you only adapt that skill for just a short amount of time and it doesn't stay with you. You know that you become fully reliant on alcohol. Alcohol traps you, it controls you, it basically owns you. But if you learn that skill through being uncomfortable, it's yours for life and you can now use it whenever you want to. You become in full control of your life as well. Of course, another very important point, another very important thing that happened was I've read a book by Malcolm Gladwell called Talking to Strangers. And in this book, there is a section where Malcolm talks specifically about alcohol as a substance that causes a state of what he calls myopia, or in other words, short-sightedness. Alcohol, as Malcolm argues, is essentially making you forget about the consequences of your actions and fully focus on the emotions and decision-making in the moment. And that, of course, can be very dangerous. And that's one of the main reasons for sexual assault on college campuses in America, is because people who crave this deep intimacy and romantic interest from the opposite sex drink alcohol and put themselves into these situations where they make decisions in the moment without thinking about the consequences that could happen to them tomorrow or a week later, and so on and so forth. And of course, that is when we see some really bad things happen, such as sexual assault and so on and so forth. So one of the other things I realized is that by not drinking, I'm never, ever at a chance of putting myself in these situations. I'm in really full control. Of course, I can still make a decision today that I'm going to potentially either regret tomorrow, but the chance of me doing that is so much smaller because I'm logically thinking through every single step and every single decision that I'm making. So I'm not really putting myself at a risk of doing any of those things. Of course, also, your energy absolutely skyrockets. I can now work out 5, 6, 7 times a week as much as I want to, wake up at 5 in the morning, sometimes even sleep a little bit less, but still feel energetic, and actually have a liver of a 26-year-old or even less than 26-year-old, as opposed to of a 45-year-old like I used to back in the day, right? So the physical effects are certainly there. You certainly feel them, and they're certainly great to kind of get over. I now feel so productive. I don't have to worry about drinking a glass of wine and then being hungover or have a headache the next day or maybe in a couple of hours. I know that I'm going to feel great every single day consistently, and that is going to be my life going forward. So my goal with this video, guys, was really to show you what could be on the other side. Just a glimpse of it, you know? And I also realized that the majority of adults have not been sober. Just think about this for a second. The majority of the adults have not been sober for an extensive period of time, even once in their life since high school, right? You start drinking, going to house parties late high school, like your junior or senior year. Then you get into college, you obviously start drinking nonstop because it's college. And then you start working at a corporate job and going to happy hours or drinking beers with your friends for the Super Bowl or other social or sports events, and you essentially never experience the feeling of being sober extensively at any point as an adult. Then that's the reality for the majority of the people, so they simply don't really know what could be on the other side of it. And those risks that are taking are essentially worth it to them because of the feeling that they experience and the way that they can escape their existing situation, their existing life in this coping mechanism sort of way. So it's really just a sobering thought. And like I said, my goal with this video is to show you that something greater could be on the other side. So why not just give it a try? What if you give up alcohol for 60 days and see what happens? What if you give up alcohol for 3 months and see what happens? Let me tell you, after 3 months of not drinking, I can pretty much guarantee you that you're going to be looking back and you're going to be, why was I doing this? Why was I spending so much money on poison? Why was I not using my time and my resources and my body for something much more productive, something much more beneficial to me and others around me? Working on myself, on my meaningful masculine mission instead. Putting the hours that I'm putting into partying and drinking into my business, something that could really create generational wealth for my family or impact everybody in my community in a positive way. Why was I not doing that? You start having those thoughts, and you also start putting yourself into those very uncomfortable situations in your life that cause personal growth. You grow as a human being tremendously while you're sober. And of course, you experience all of those amazing physical effects of increased productivity, increased energy, increased libido. Your testosterone goes through the roof, all of those amazing things too. So I just encourage you to try that out. And once you do, please let me know what you think about it, what your experience with it is. And if you are already team sober, please comment below. I want to get together and get to know all of you guys and talk about your experience with alcohol in the past and how giving up alcohol completely changed your life, because I'm sure that it did. I also want to put this out there that I do have a course, an online course coming out very soon called Sinnskraft Fitness and Mindset Supercharge Academy. And if you are somebody who is currently maybe struggling with this coping mechanism of alcohol consumption, this course is going to be for you. It's going to help you turn your life around using fitness and using certain mindset techniques that I've specifically developed to help with this problem and this issue. So if you are interested to learn more about this, you can join the waitlist in the link in the description of this video. Just click on it. You can sign up. So that is pretty much it, guys, for this video. I really hope you found this video valuable, and I can't wait to see you guys in the next video. Cheers.